in the collapse. It's too soon to say for certain. Experts with the right technology, Joe, can probably figure it out eventually, but not immediately.
Demolitions teams lifted the cars from the wreckage one by one and lined them up in the middle of Ann Street. Battered, dusty, and dented, some with their car alarms still flashing. More than 50 were parked on the roof of the parking garage alone, leading authorities to speculate that the sheer weight of the cars, as much as £250,000 pounds, might have been enough to trigger the collapse. For the moment, securing the site is the top priority.
Right now we're transitioning to how we safely take down that building, and it's incredibly complex. There's over 50 cars on the roof. The building is not structurally sound.
The 98-year-old building came down in a loud roar. This sent neighbors and shopkeepers into a panic. Firefighters were on the scene within minutes. 5 parking attendants were injured. The manager was killed, identified by his neighbors as 59-year-old Willis Moore, was still pinned in the wreckage late this afternoon. Unable to search the debris themselves, firefighters used new technology, including a robotic dog and drones, looking for signs of life amid the ruins. No other victims would be found.
If we didn't have that robotic dog, we would have placed those firefighters in jeopardy. That's how we found the person who's still there.
Among the parked cars were 6 belonging to New York City Sheriff's deputies. It was a close call for one of them, according to Sheriff Anthony Miranda.
One of our deputies had just left the location, probably within 20 minutes, a half hour before it happened.
Did any of your officers notice problems with the structure or express any concern about the structure?
No, we haven't had any complaints from our officers. It's not something that anybody anticipated. There are going to be some investigations. There are going to be questions. There are going to be things to follow up, and they'll take the appropriate steps and do what's necessary.
Well, there are multiple investigations underway tonight. The Manhattan DA entered the case today, although no foul play was suspected here. 4 buildings are now fully evacuated. 2 are partially evacuated. I'm told as many as 90 cars were inside the parking garage. Again, 50 of them parked on the roof. Live tonight, Lower Manhattan, NJ Burke at Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
NJ, thank you. From on the ground to Shannon's Zone and Newscopter 7, high above the parking garage. Shannon, what can you see?
Yeah, and if a picture is worth 1,000 words, this picture might be worth 1,000,000. What we have been seeing from overhead, this is the Ann Street side of the parking garage, and what we have seen is for the first time we've seen people inside that demolition zone, and heavy equipment literally plucked one of the cars off of what was once the roof of this building. But when you look at the roof and the cars, you have them facing literally in every which direction, some plummeting downward, some on their side, and some completely overturned. You see this one literally straddling a massive gap in what was solid concrete at one point. And what we really want to show you is from the front of the garage all the way to the back, you can see that crack went down the entirety of that garage, and this one car, it all depended on where you parked, right? This one car got caught right in that collapse, but right next to it, you see the crack forming in the concrete. So anyone parked to the left side, those cars are okay. Not that it's going to matter, because they're going to figure out how to get these cars off. And as NJ mentioned, this is going to be a meticulous demolition, because every time they move a car, a piece of concrete also moves. So it's a matter of doing a controlled demolition to keep people safe here and the buildings on either side safe. The DEP is on hand as well to check for asbestos in the air. So far, everything has been under normal limits. Reporting live over Lower Manhattan, Shannon Zone, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Just a dangerous situation all around. Shannon, thank you. Well, we're learning new information about the man killed in the collapse. Neighbors are identifying him as 59-year-old Willis Moore, the manager of that parking garage. Eyewitness News reporter Darla Miles is live in Laurelton, Queens, where he lived. Darla?
Sade, Willis Moore is from Jamaica, but Neighbors say he lived here in Laurelton, Queens most of his life, and he has been a fixture in the neighborhood. I spoke briefly with family members, his brother, and the mother of his youngest child. They say that, well, the mother of his youngest child just told me that she was texting with him yesterday afternoon around 1 o'clock, that he'd asked her to go pick something up from the store, and then she was texting him back and could not reach him. And then she saw the news of the parking garage collapse, and she was afraid because she knew he worked in that neighborhood.
I think honestly, it's a lot to take in.
59-year-old Willis Moore, feared dead in Wednesday's Lower Manhattan garage collapse. Neighbors say this is him in the photos.
When my sister went outside walking her dog, she had came back in and told me that my neighbor's family, they said that he had an accident at work. And, they did say he passed away from the accident at work.
Moore is believed to have been in the office on the second floor of the 4-story garage when out of nowhere, the concrete above caved in. Sadly, his body still trapped in the debris.
As soon as I turned the news on, I heard of the collapse. And I said to myself, I pray that's not his garage. That's what went through my mind.
Moore was a father of 4. One of his daughters is an active duty NYPD officer.
I can't process this. Because last summer I even shared vegetables with him because I have a vegetable garden. And we're both from Jamaica.
From what I know, he liked to fish a lot. He would anytime he would go, he'd always bring back something from my mom as well. When I was younger, he would give us tickets to Six Flags every now and then.
That is just one of the kind-hearted neighborly gestures he was known for. Another, hiring contractors who he knew needed the work.
He's like a fixture in the neighborhood. I see him as a fixture because he's such a nice guy to talk to.
Now, while family members and neighbors have been notified that Willis Moore was killed in that garage collapse yesterday, the positive identification from the NYPD will come when the body is recovered from the garage. Reporting live in Laurelton, Queens, Darla Miles, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Darla, thank you. We dug through the city's archives and found this picture of the parking garage from the 1940s, about 15 to 20 years after it was built. Tonight, a closer look into whether open violations found in that garage contributed to the collapse, and if the weight of all the cars on the roof was too much for the nearly century-old building. 7 on Your Side investigative reporter Kristen Thorne joins us in the studio with that part of the story. Kristen.
Joe, it may not just be the weight of the cars. I spoke with an architect today who says the age of the building is not really the issue. Old buildings can stay standing for a long period of time, even with all that weight, but they can't if they're not maintained, and that's really the issue here.
From what we've seen, things that are falling down and collapse, I mean, there's signs. They don't just randomly fall apart all at once.
And there were signs that things were not structurally sound at the 4-story garage. We found a number of open safety violations at the building, including broken and defective stairs, as well as missing concrete and cracks.
I surmise that there's some the garage must have been, and this is pure speculation, deteriorating over time, and it was not attended to.
Up until this year, parking garages in New York City were not required to undergo any mandatory inspections. Beginning this year, they do. The city doesn't know yet if the owner of this structure submitted the inspection yet. It's due by the end of December. Under the new code, it's up to parking garage owners to pay for the inspection by a professional engineer every 6 years. Mayor Adams says there could be other changes coming too.
We're living in a new environment, and we have to constantly analyze and upgrade everything from a weight capacity to how many cars can be there, and that is all part of this investigation.
The mayor challenged a statement that the Department of Buildings has a 23% vacancy rate. It may not be 23%, but it is 22.7%, not far from the Department of Small Business Services, which has the highest vacancy rate. We know hiring has been a problem across all agencies in New York City. The good thing about this new code is it will not require the DOB to do these inspections. That will be something property owners have to take care of. But I want to bring you up to date on two very important points that we just received from New York City, from City Hall there. They are now confirming that this building was inspected in 2013. That's the last time that it was inspected. But what's interesting is that during that time, that inspection did not mention some very serious violations from just 10 years before. The DOB also confirms that they have not yet received the inspection for this cycle year, but again, the owner has until December to complete that. Back to you.
Thank you, Kristen.
And